It is Monday morning. What's up, everybody? Welcome. I'm Guy Haberman. If you're watching on YouTube, great. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you very much. On the podcast feed, leave a review. 5 stars, leave a question, and we are very close to getting a mailbag together. I know I've been saying I'm going to do that, but I am going to do that. It falls to me, as I feel like it always does. It's me fighting against the world. For some reason, I'm not exactly sure what, but we're going to get into it. I don't know how it happened. I didn't intend for it to happen. I've become a Deebo Samuel defender. That's the funny thing. You've turned me into an advocate when I wasn't necessarily one. We've talked about Deebo a lot over the years on this show, on this channel, on this podcast. War daddy, all that kind of stuff. But, I'm just Goldilocks, I guess. In politics, everybody likes to claim that they are center. And maybe most people are. We just hear from the extremists. But here we go. Guy-D-Locks when it comes to Deebo Samuel. On Sunday, I was scrolling Twitter, and I saw an account called Sad Niners Fan post a bunch of Deebo Samuel highlights. And I quoted the tweet and said, quote, "But what about that time he jogged?" End quote. And the response was as expected, as anticipated, and that's what I'm here to talk about. I'll show you some of it coming up. But Deebo has quickly become the third most polarizing 49ers topic behind is Kyle Shanahan a choker, is Brock Purdy a fraud, and then 3 is does Deebo Samuel even care about football? Because that's what it becomes, right? I'm not at least here to debate for this conversation whether or not he's a $28 million receiver, which is what he is on paper this year. I think that's mostly a losing argument, okay? It's not about if he's worth the money. I don't think he is, in all likelihood, a $28 million receiver, a $30 million receiver. But that's not what this is about. This is about where's the gray area. Most things happen in the gray area. So this is about perception and reality. And I just want to take you through, and I appreciate, there was, I got no problem. I knew when I posted what I posted, I get some of the responses I got. Maybe I did it because of that. Like that time he jogged, you clearly don't watch the tape. The dude rarely puts in any effort without the ball. It's cringe to watch him half-ass anything. Let's find some more here. It's 2024 though, says the blue curmudgeon Donald, right? In other words, stop living in the past, guy. These are old highlights. Carson, 11 targets, 3 catches in a Super Bowl is a tough look. Here's another one. I want the Niners to keep Deebo and think he's a crazy threat, but I also wish he would give more effort on clear out routes. Haha. But it's not the end of the world. All right, there's a reasonable person. I'm in disbelief at the slander. Here we go. That's gone. Giving anything less than maximum effort on any play isn't something that should be celebrated. It's embarrassing. That's a good place to jump off here. Not here to celebrate giving less than maximum effort. Just here to talk about the reality of human beings. Okay. So people say to me, "God, do you watch the tape?" Yeah, I've watched the tape. I watch the tape. Every game, I watch the tape. I watch the game, and then let's not let any NFL highlights into this. And then I watch the tape. Okay. Oh, here's another one. Guy, he dogs it almost every time the play is designed for him. Virtually never blocks. He's an awful team player with exceptional talent and skill. He's actually the most common thread through the 49ers' 2 Super Bowl appearances, carries them at times in a way that football players don't often carry teams, in part because he can run the ball sometimes. But I know he didn't separate from Trent McDuffie. Okay, Guy, we're not even talking about that play. Fine. He jogged on a crossing route, didn't catch the ball. As one former NFL player told me, when I sent them the play, crossing route in the Super Bowl, Guy, he jogged. As one former NFL player told me, well, you don't run that route at full speed because you want to catch the ball and turn upfield. But again, this is not about a debate as to whether or not he gives 100% on every play. It's a debate about whether it's acceptable because he's a human being. And I know unacceptable is a phrase that people love. I am so tired of unacceptable because people say unacceptable, but what they mean is, quote, it's not right. There's a better way to play, which I agree with. Unacceptable means something different. Unacceptable means it's so bad that you're willing to eliminate 100% of what he gives you because of some of what he gives you you don't like, okay? And maybe the Niners have reached that conclusion. I mean, he was available via trade, and nobody was willing to give up a lot. So, I mean, the people on the other side of this argument would say the league is telling you, Guy, that you're wrong, and the Niners are telling you that you're wrong by making him available at all. Oh, well, Jerry Rice ran hard every time. Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time, okay? Jerry Rice is a Hall of Famer. Deebo's not a Hall of Famer. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but he is a carrier. And, slugging home run hitters sometimes can carry you. Sometimes they jog out on grounders to second. You don't have to like it. I don't like it. But it's just the reality of human beings. It sounds like many of you, and maybe the 49ers too, are not willing to give Deebo Samuel any more rope. Okay. But I think it'd be a mistake. I think he was hurt at the end of the year. I think he was hurt in the Super Bowl. And still, he had the second best statistical career, if I can say the word statistical. He had the second best statistical season of his career. He had the second most receiving yards of his career. He had the second most touchdowns, 12 of his career. He had the second most first downs receiving of his career, 34. At 14.9 yards per reception, it was the second highest yards per reception average of his career. His 15 starts, second most of his career. It weirdly, feels like he's always hurt. And you look up and started 15 games. His 7 receiving touchdowns were the most of his career. If you look at his numbers, where he's lost some is in the running back stats, right? The stats that Christian McCaffrey's really hurt him in. But football players are just like everyone else, superhuman versions, yes. But if you think you have found, and this is the part that really gets me, this is the part that kills me. People think they found the smoking gun when they give you 10 clips of Deebo not running hard. If you think you have found the smoking gun every time you find a clip of Deebo Samuel not running hard, you're kidding yourself. The guy turns his dial to 150%, as well as anybody in the sport. When he's at his best, which is sometimes, he's like no other player in the sport. And I know this is going to be interpreted by some as me defending lollygagging. It's not. I think I can summarize my position with one sentence, and this is it. I believe the good he brings outweighs the bad. And I think that's the fundamental difference between me and maybe many others who I'm not sure if they feel that way or not. They point out he didn't run hard here. I know a lot of it. Now this is not a sarcastic or a backhanded whatever. I know. I think a lot of people don't go straight to the L22 themselves, although many of you do. JT Sullivan puts in the work, and so people watch his videos, and I know he has been a proponent of this. Like, hey, look, here's another point where Deebo jogged. Fine. It's not about excusing it or not excusing it. It's about saying, okay, are you willing to give up all of what he gives you because you don't like when he gives you that? Ultimately, his days are numbered as a 49er. Everybody's are, but his days really are, right? When you look at the trajectory, who's going to be here and how long, it feels like a season 2 max for Deebo Samuel. But what I believe is this: the day that he's played his last game for the 49ers is the day the Niners get worse, is the day they have to pivot off of him. And it's easier said than done, okay? Treylon Burks. Now it's Xavier Legette. There's always a guy that people think maybe he's going to be the guy. I've said this before, but it reminds me of when everyone was ready to find the next Draymond Green. Because when you watch him, you go, well, what does he really do that nobody else can do? And yet, the replacement's a lot harder to find. Well, this skill's not elite, and this skill's not elite, and this skill's not elite. So why couldn't we just, I don't know, find another guy to do it? He's not huge. He's not fast. Doesn't play hard every play. Not a great receiver. Doesn't separate. Not a running back. Well, finding the next one's very hard. What Deebo Samuel accomplished last year is he became the second player in NFL history to get to 4,000 receiving yards and 1,000 rushing yards in his first 5 years in the NFL. The other player to do it's not a Hall of Famer. Again, he won't be either. But he'll go down as one of the most important players of this team. And if they win a Super Bowl this year, finally, it will be, I promise you, a season-long highlight reel, right, when you put it together at the end of the year, that has plenty of Deebo highlights in it. I don't think they can do it without him. Maybe that's correct. Maybe it's incorrect. Maybe McCaffrey will just do all of the stuff that Deebo does, and he's expendable and fine. But the rest of the NFC is trying to find ways to beat these guys. The defensive coordinators are trying to find ways to stop him. And sometimes they do. The Chiefs did. The Chiefs did. Maybe a lot of this comes from just losing. Maybe a lot of it comes from the Super Bowl itself, Deebo not being able to get open consistently. I mean, like, hardly at all. His game is really dependent on creating space for him. Every offensive coordinator that I've ever talked to has said some version of it's about getting your playmakers in space. He's the type of playmaker you have to get in space. Okay, he's not a perfect player, but far from it. He's not one-on-one superstar NFL receiver. And I think that, people go, okay, then why are we paying him like one? Well, you're paying him with this is what it is. But he's not one-on-one Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, going to go get open. That's not what he is. Okay, he's something different. And, I guess you'd like for him to become that when you give him $28 million a year. But I remember Greg Papa said something years ago that I've quoted a lot, which is the player doesn't change when you pay him. You just have to pay him eventually, but it doesn't change who the player is. So maybe that's what's changed in the last, 3 years with Deebo since his all-pro, just lights out season of 2021. He wasn't a $28 million play. He didn't have a big contract then. Maybe people were more willing to accept. Maybe 2 Super Bowl losses make people go, we've got to pivot off of this guy. We've tried it now twice. He hasn't won us a Super Bowl. So I guess maybe that's where it comes from. Or maybe it just comes from everybody getting access to the tape. You get to see every play. You get to see the plays guys take off. I remember, John has said something for years that goes back to his time scouting, something Louis Riddick, he always said, taught him, which is if you watch like the big interior defensive linemen, you're always going to be able to find plays that they take off because it's hard to operate that body for 50 snaps a game at 100%. Not everybody likes it. You'd wish you could just hit the turbo button and get maximum effort on every play, but that's not real life. Okay. And the reality is that this guy, Deebo Samuel, he plays like most people haven't played in our real lives. So I think he still has excellent football in him. I think he's still a critical part of this team's Super Bowl window. I think it would have been a mistake to trade him. I still think it would be a mistake this year to trade him. I think that it feels like that door has closed, but you still see I still get asked about it. Like, could you still do it with the cap and post June and blah, blah, blah. So I guess for some people that makes me pro Deebo. I don't view myself that way. I just see a player whose positives outweigh his negatives. I'm not saying he's a player without negatives. I'm not saying it's acceptable. It's unacceptable. All right. Well, if it's unacceptable, then you have to be willing to part with the other stuff. You got to be willing to part with all of it if it's truly unacceptable. I think it's acceptable. Doesn't mean it's right, but I do think it's acceptable. All right. Let's get to some of your comments. Kevin says, DBs have a much harder time tackling him than covering him. It's a good point. That goes back to get your star players the ball in space, give him a chance to make plays. Justin says, what hate is going on for Deebo? Deebo's a unique player. He brings a toughness to the team as an offensive player. Ask Ramsey. He's talking about Jalen Ramsey. Andrew disagrees. Andrew says, trade Deebo for a box of Totino's pizza rolls, a.k.a. trade Deebo for the runs. If I let Totino's touch my insides today, we'd have a problem. Okay. And you're talking to a guy who on Friday night ate a double patty smash burger with fries. My stomach went through it this Friday night. This was the mix. Okay. This was the concoction. Manhattan, in this order, Manhattan, light beer, double smash burger with fries, martini, grilled cheese sandwich with Parmesan garlic tater tots, and some drink called a Hey Boo. I'd rather Deebo than a box of Totino's pizza rolls. Daniel says, summed up as, quote, he's worth it. Dan the man says, Deebo brings a level of physicality that's not organic. That's interesting. With Kyle's offense. He brings so much to the table that stats can't quantify. We need a real defensive input here. 49ers Sports Talk says Deebo's a dog. Only thing I'm concerned about next year is his age, particularly with Kyle using him as a pseudo running back. You know, the Niners have, I hadn't thought about this till just now, so I don't have the perfect analogy, but the Niners, between McCaffrey and Deebo and even Kittle, you almost need it. Need's not the right word, but it's so helpful to have all three of them, given that they all get banged up at some point during the year. And you kind of got to put one down and pick another one up at the ready. Have that weapon fully loaded, exhaust the clip, and then it's like, oh shoot, Deebo needs a week. All right, McCaffrey. Like Shanahan does not, he doesn't ration ammo, right? He just takes McCaffrey and just fires that gun. And then he just picks up Deebo and fires that gun. And Kittle, all right, Kittle, there's no ease into anything. We've talked about this a lot. Nathan says Purdy has changed. Here we go. This is Nathan. Part of this is a systematic issue with Shanahan's system. For so long, Deebo played with a quarterback that did not get the receiver the ball if it wasn't his play, even if they were open. Purdy has changed that in some ways. Shanahan has said as much. Deebo isn't lazy so much as complacent. I think we're talking whatever label you want to call it, it's undeniable. He doesn't turn the dial to 100% on every play. But when he does, he is destructive to the defense. So I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I think the part about Purdy and Garoppolo here in this comment from you, Nathan, is true. But I guess the part that I don't necessarily agree with is that Purdy somehow hurts Deebo. I mean, Deebo had the second most catches of his career this year. I guess you're saying, well, if the play is designed for Deebo, it better go to Deebo. Deebo was wide ass open in the end zone against the Ravens, and Purdy was late. Jan says Deebo was force-fed in 2021 because of injuries. There's no reason to give him that many touches. Karen says Deebo did not get open in the Super Bowl. Your thoughts, Guy? Yeah, it's part of his weakness. He's not going to get open against physical, man-to-man, press coverage. This is not new information. We didn't need the Super Bowl to tell us this. If you've been following along here on YouTube or listening to this podcast, going back to last year, you may remember that I talked a ton, about how the Niners receivers don't separate in practice on go balls. Not on one-on-one drills, really. Certainly not in team period. They just don't. It's not their skill set. They get open in the middle of the field. Shanahan gets them, tricks defenses, gets them open through deception and play action. But hey, guy, not a slur. Hey, guy, go beat your guy one-on-one down the sideline, and we're going to throw it over the top. It's not their skill set. Okay, so what worked, here's the news. What worked in the Super Bowl is what worked last August in practice. That's the recipe. The problem is most teams don't have two guys that can play with that, three guys that can do it. Chiefs did. They don't anymore, but they did. Thomas says, everyone killed Jimmy G. Me too. This is Thomas saying. He said he did too, for missing Emmanuel Sanders. But Purdy overthrows Deebo in the back of the end zone in the fourth quarter, and no one talks about that play. You get a TD instead of a field goal, he's a hero. Well, I think the play that Purdy, quote unquote, missed was Ayuk in the end zone. Ayuk was open in the end zone. Deebo one-on-one jump ball, Trent McDuffie. It's not a winning recipe. I notice when I talk, let me get a little voice placement here. When I talk up, when I place my voice where it's supposed to be, it loses the gravel. I'm still working on that. Carlos says maybe people expect 2021 to be the usual. And this is, here's a good comment here from BN Suave. I don't think it's unacceptable, but it's not $28 million a year. Act 1, 2, 3 says the QB school videos haven't been good for Deebo. Yeah, I do think that's probably a lot of where it comes from. I think that's a big part of it. I don't think anybody watching 40 minutes of tape is bad. You know, like if you're going to take the time to break it all down and watch it, all for it. But the question is, what are you? Maybe you're willing to say, and maybe JT O'Sullivan would say this. I don't know if he has said this. Just get rid of Deebo. They're better without him. Maybe that's his opinion. I don't know. And by the way, you don't have to have that opinion. You can point this out and not reach some conclusion like that. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to reach that conclusion. I got no problem pointing it out. My problem is just when people talk as if it outweighs the positive. I disagree with that. If you manage to stay tuned, hit that like button. Justin asks, thoughts on rotating Mitchell in more to keep the big three healthier longer? Deebo, McCaffrey, Kittle, so as not to exhaust the clip. Pearsall should help distribute that load, hopefully, too. Yeah, I mean, in theory, rotating Elijah Mitchell in sounds like a great idea. He's never healthy enough. So that's for one of these running backs. Maybe it's the fourth rounder, Isaac Guerendo from Louisville. Maybe it's Cody Schrader, the undrafted running back from Missouri. You know, can one of these guys prove to protect the football and be trusted in pass protection? Okay, that's going to be the key. If you can hold on to the ball through camp in the preseason, I think one of the big things to watch for in the preseason, Guerendo and Schrader, how many carries do they get? Do they protect the ball? Can they be trusted in pass pro? And that person's going to have a chance too. Here's what we know for a fact. At some point this year, Elijah Mitchell won't be the number 2 running back. Not because he gets beat out necessarily, but because he gets hurt in practice, non-contact. It just happens a lot. So in theory, I love this idea of getting Mitchell into a flow. But, you know, Shanahan has just proven, and we've talked about this. I have been for this, but Kyle doesn't do it. So, you know, one of the reasons I like the Ricky Pearsall pick is because the Niners have great depth at offensive weapons as long as everyone's healthy. When everyone's healthy, you look at them and you go, all right, well, Juwan Jennings is a great, like, 5th option. It's fantastic. The second somebody gets hurt, the Niners get a little, I don't remember who, somebody coined this phrase a few years ago. And I don't remember, I feel like it was a basketball thing. But I love it. And I haven't thought of it in a while. I haven't used it in a long time. Overexposed is the word, right? Like you've got players that fit certain roles. And as long as they're in those roles, they're the exact right person in the exact right spot. The second somebody gets hurt and you've got to pick up more, you get a little overexposed, right? It'd be like if Ringo Starr had to sing a song other than Yellow Submarine. It's just not in his vocal range. Yellow Submarine, perfect. The long and winding road, overexposed. And what I hope for them that Ricky Pearsall will bring, it's not just that he'll take, Ray McLeod's, 17 targets? No, 15 targets. Ray had 15 targets. If you told me Ray had, listen to this, Ray McLeod, 15 targets, 12 catches. Okay, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. 7 first downs. So half the time you threw the ball to Ray McLeod, you got a first down. Now we know that the number for Juwan Jennings was even higher. Juwan Jennings, I talked to Juwan about this last year. 19 catches, 12 first downs. Fantastic. Like, wow. Incredible. If you're another team, you're going to want to pay, or maybe the Niners will want to get more out of Juwan Jennings one day. But that's where I think Ricky Pearsall fits in, is maybe he's got 12 to 19 targets. I think he's going to get more. I have a hard time seeing him get less than Ray. So I think he's going to get more anyway. But I also think he'll have a high enough floor that when Deebo misses a game, you miss a game, whatever the case, you're going to be able to use Ricky a little bit in that way. So Elijah, he does seem to take some plays off, but the efficiency on offense drops like a stone without him on the field. I got to get the updated numbers. I remember last year during the season, near the end of the year, and end of maybe it was December. I remember Larry Krueger had a stat that the offensive yards per play dropped by 2 yards per play when Deebo was off the field. So, we should probably update that stat. That's a significant stat. I'm excited about Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing. I think these two guys are going to be very interesting to watch in camp. I think Cowing's gotten a lot of credit, a lot of attention as a 4th rounder. I think Ricky's going to be good. I think he's going to be good. I mean, is he going to turn into Brandon Ayuk or, some of these end of the first round, early second, Justin Jefferson receivers? I think the odds are very much stacked against that. But I think he's going to be a very useful player on a team trying to win a championship. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited about it. All right. I'm sure there'll be some disagreement about this. I'm open to it. Happy to talk about this. Ron Riv says, happy the voice is back. We're getting there. I couldn't call a game today. Right now for when I do a YouTube video like this, I'm operating in first gear. And it's not even great for first gear, but it was a disastrous voice. Okay. So it's better now. It's improved. And it's usefulness. Now, I couldn't go call a game. Couldn't call a game right now. But I don't have to. Football games don't start for a while. So we're working on that. If you're watching the YouTube, what you see is your boy in a quarter zip and a telltale sign. That pitchers have tells, when he flinches his glove 3 times, it means an off-speed pitch is coming. A telltale sign if your boy is about to hit the golf course is if you see me early. If it's guy 7:30 guy was on today. Well, not quite. In a quarter zip, is he golfing today? The answer is yes. Not only am I golfing today, Monday, I couldn't be more excited about where I'm golfing. Some of you maybe have been to this place. I've seen it because I have some friends that live near it, and you can walk along a path. Meadow Club in Fairfax. It's, from what I hear, very, I don't know, underrated is the word, but it's an awesome place. There may be some of you who live in the North Bay or know the Archie Williams basketball program. I'll learn about it today. My buddy Danny, this is his turf, and he invited me to a charity golf event. So maybe we can auction off a 262 hat. Maybe I'll donate that. Excited about it. So that's where I'm going to be today. But I'll be back to check the comments on this video, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it. And I can't wait. Can't wait. So it's Monday. Have a great week, everybody. More topics to discuss. There were some other elements of like national football. Sorry, I was watching a lot of Andy. I woke up this morning watching Andy. I'll tell you this: if you're an early riser or you're not on the West Coast, you're in the Midwest, you're in the East. Right now, every morning, Andy Staples, who, if you're a college football fan like me, does a great job covering college football. He's on every morning at like 5 a.m. Pacific. So I wake up, the first thing I do is watch the last 45 minutes of Andy Staples, what I did today. So that's why I said I was going to talk national football, which what I meant was I think there was some other NFL stuff I was going to get to today. But national is like the way college football fans talk. I go back and forth. We intertwine the NFL and the college football here. All right. Plenty more of your takes to get to. I can see a lot of them here. I'm not going to have time to do it now. I'm out, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Thanks for hanging. YouTubers, hit that like button on your way out the door. Subscribe. Send this video to somebody you love or somebody you hate. And talk your shit in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.